Happy Monday again, everyone. If you're in my part of the world, you're getting overcast and what feels like actual fall weather this morning and yesterday, which is nice. And I like that a lot. And I get happier in that kind of weather in general. I love this time of year. So, not always damp weather necessarily, but cooler for sure. So, the thing that was on my mind last night and today is about accepting answers from people, and really this focus of being careful about who you take answers from, and really being careful about who you ask advice of and who you take advice from. So I don't think people think about this cognitively a lot, but a lot of us do it in practice, and then there's certain elements that we don't do in practice. So a lot of people will hear advice and they're like, that's stupid, I don't want to listen to that. Or they'll hear someone who they don't respect give them advice on something. And I think generally speaking, it's not always helpful to lump someone into a they don't give me good advice and someone else into a they always give me good advice category. There's some element of that, but from a perspective of gaining wisdom and knowledge and understanding and direction about things, there are certain people who are going to do that well for you, for me, for anyone, and certain people who are going to speak directly into certain people's lives and certain situations. And specifically, the thing that I want to focus on with this is looking at who you're taking the advice from, and do you want what they have? And it's not, I want your advice. It's, for example, the example that I use all the time is if you're taking money advice from someone, what's their finances look like? And I don't think that's inappropriate. So, and I personally struggle with this follow-up piece, and something that I'm working on is when people ask me about my income, what do I want to say? And I think there's some discernment about that. Like, do you just say, this is what I make? Do you talk about something else? Do you just hold it? And generally, I lean towards offering it. There are moments when I don't. But specifically, and I'm thinking about an instance recently where I got asked about this and didn't answer it. And looking back, I probably should have. It was just an awkward situation with how I got asked, and I just didn't. If I'm going to give someone advice on how to manage finances, I think they have a right to ask me about my finances. Now, if my advice that I'm giving is on budgeting, and they ask me about how much money I make, that might not be connected to that situation. However, if I'm telling someone you should save 70% of what you make and only live on 10%, then I think it's fair for that person to say, well, how much do you make? Because most people can't live on 10%. I couldn't live on 10%. And if someone says, well, I make $1 million a year, and it's like, okay, well, your 10% is more than what most people even make. So certain things are relevant. So that's kind of like a tangent in some ways. But really what I look at with finances is if somebody's saying, hey, you should do, this is one I hear a lot, like get into real estate so you can make passive income, have a rental property, and then that'll pay for itself, and you can get another rental property. And a lot of the people that are giving me that advice don't have any money, or they don't do it themselves, or they're not making money from it. And when I watch that, and I'm not saying you can't make money, I see people who don't know often what they're talking about with that. And they don't take into account that you have repairs that you have to do on the property. You have to actually manage the property either yourself or hire someone to do it. You have to potentially manage difficult tenants. You have to manage the laws that are happening in your area. And it's not just this passive income, it is work. And in my mindset, this is not supposed to be like a business hour, but my mindset is that there's not really passive income. It all requires some sort of work, even if it's a lot of work up front, and now you can make some money. Same with like investments. Like you have to work to make the money originally, and then you put it in to your investments, stock market, whatever you're investing in, and you either pay someone to do work for you to manage it, or you pay attention and you manage it. But it's not just passive in that sense. Like there's work that is involved, and it can potentially get to a point where it's passive. So point being, I'm again off just in wherever right now, but finances are a good example. If I see someone who's a millionaire and I ask for advice on making $1 million, they're probably going to have better advice than someone who's not a millionaire. So, and there's also elements of, I think about coaches too. So a lot of coaches who, like athletic coaches, they might not be the top athletes, but they know how to train those athletes. So if they say, hey, do this for this outcome, you might say, well, you're not doing that. Keeping in mind the relationship that you have, because someone might be really good at training something, and they are like, I don't want to be an Olympic level athlete. I just want to train people. Like, I find joy in the training aspect and understanding these. I don't actually want to do that with my life. And that's an okay area of advice giving or coaching. And so really what I would encourage people, and I do this for myself all the time, and I encourage other people to do this too, is to really pay attention to who is giving you information and do you want what they have. So so I'm a therapist. If I'm helping people with their relationships and we're working through their own stuff or their trauma or processing things that are happening in their life, better understanding themselves, and they're really struggling randomly with, math. Like, I just struggle with math. I'm like, well, you should try doing this and practice this equation instead. I don't know what I'm talking about. I go from being an expert to being ignorant. And just because I can give advice here does not mean I'm helpful with math. Just because someone in a position of power, let's say, owns a Fortune 500 company, if you ask them a question about playing guitar, they might have no idea what they're talking about. So just because someone has power and just because someone has authority and has a lot of say and wisdom in one topic does not mean that translates over. However, it might mean that it translates into general understandings. So going back to me being asked about math, someone's like, I'm just struggling with math. I might not be able to say, well, try this exact thing with math, but I could give them ways to change how they are studying and approaching math. So, and that's part of where, as a therapist in another field, you don't necessarily have to fully understand the issue to give input. But the more that you understand, the better the input can be. So, the more I understand math, the easier it is to help give someone ways to study it better. A good example for me is I know how to play guitar. If somebody came up and asked me how to improve at some hobby, I could give them general ideas on how to improve at a hobby. And they'd be more generic than anything. I'd use what I know. And a lot of people do musical hobbies and a lot of people do athletic hobbies. And those are things that I understand fairly well. But there are lots of hobbies that I don't. I don't understand crocheting at all, but I can still give advice on how to improve at that hobby and how to devote time to it, even if I don't know the specifics. And when I talked about music a second ago, I can give advice if someone's asking for guitar help, really specific, like here are ways that you can study. And so I could say, you need to be practicing every day and you need to be focusing on these fundamental things. And if I didn't know the instrument, I'd say practice every day, focus on fundamentals. If you can, get a teacher, be patient, don't stress yourself out about it. Make sure that you're doing this. If it's something you really want to learn, it's about a longevity piece, not overloading it every day. I can give that advice about a lot of things. But with the guitar, I might focus more in on these are chords that you can practice that are easier. This is ways that you can practice with your pick. This is how you can help with your hand posture, your body posture when you play. This is what you can expect in terms of what your fingers will feel like. People say it hurts and it's cramping. I would say push through that a little bit, past the point of pain, and then stop if you're needing to. I push way past it. You don't have to. This is how you can practice these things. I know that because I have done it and I understand the instrument. So that's where that advice becomes very guitar focused versus a general, here's what I know about habit formation and getting better at things you want to get better at. So the one caveat that I will give for the advice piece is that there are people who give what some would consider hypocritical advice. And I think that's somewhat fair, but it's not the full picture. And the example is a smoker telling you not to smoke. If somebody smokes a lot and they say, don't do this, it's bad for your health. And you're like, but you're doing it. There's some discernment there of being able to recognize that person doesn't like the outcome of their life. They like the short-term gratification of smoking, where they might feel like they're in so deep that they can't back off and make a difference. But they are still giving sound advice in that sense. especially when they couple it with like, this is unhealthy to do and I wish I wouldn't have done it. That doesn't mean they have good advice as an alternative. You can think about someone who didn't save for retirement and they get to retirement age and they're telling you, you need to save for retirement, I messed up. That is actually not advice on how to invest into retirement and how to prepare, but it is acknowledgement of like, I made a mistake. Don't make the same mistake. Don't go this route. I can't tell you exactly what route to go, but this route does not work. So that's where I think you can take some advice from people who don't have what you want. But really pay attention to that. And I've learned I don't take advice from very many people anymore because I don't want what a lot of people have. And so, for instance, in my life, there are some people, well, I have a wife who I love, and I want our marriage to continuously get better and better and better. And I think it's fantastic already. And I want to see it better, and I want to see it last really well. And, we have no concern of it lasting. It's more of a question of how do we just make it better all the time. So what I will do is I have in my mind a couples, a handful of marriages that I look at and look up to and think, I like how they interact. I like how they talk about each other. I like what their marriage looks like. And so I will ask them marriage questions and I'll take advice about their marriage. And that's a very small list of people for me. It's not, I couldn't, what is it, at least there's at least 3 to 5 couples. And bear in mind, this doesn't mean every other couple I see is a bad couple. It just means there's maybe 3 to 5 that I think they have a healthy relationship and I like what they have. So some people I see, they have a healthy relationship, but the way they interact, I'm like, that's not how I want to do it. I don't think it's wrong. That's not me. So there's a handful that I look at and I'm like, I want my marriage to be more and more like that one. Still my own and still our own, but inspired and encouraged by that. And I do this with finances too. I look at people who have made enough money and I'm like, I want to manage my money like them. I like how they spend their money. I like their thoughts on money, or even just certain topics. So I have a very short list of people that I take advice from. And that doesn't mean I don't learn from people, because I think everyone has something to teach you. But if I'm asking a question of, I want my life to be better, I want my life to grow, I am then very careful about who I ask questions to and who I take advice from. And there's some people where I just want input, like, what do you do in this situation? What do you do? Because I just want to hear perspectives and let them go around. And to me, that's information gathering and trying to gain knowledge about a topic. And that is different than I need you to speak into my life for growth. And you can argue that they're the same. They are different in my mind conceptually. So that's a strong encouragement that I will give anyone, is to find people that you're modeling after. And I see this a lot when people are coming to therapy and they don't like maybe the relationships that they have. They're not liking where they're at in life, or they're looking for a partner and they're like, this is the type of person that I want. And it's like, okay, are you spending time around people that show what you want in life? Like, I want to be healthier. I want to have good relationships. I want to get married to this type of person. I want my finances to be here. So then we'll start asking your friend groups that you're in and the people you spend time with, do they have those things? Almost always the answer is no. Pretty much every single time. And that's because we are what we do and who we spend time with. So if you spend a lot of time with people who, for instance, are going out drinking every night, getting high all the time, who are just blowing their money, the chances of you doing that too are very high. People sleeping around all the time. And if you're sitting there saying, I want to be married, I want to take good care of my health, I want to take care of my finances, you can just say goodbye to that dream if you're going to keep hanging out with these people. And even if you prove to yourself, no, I can get all those things and still hang out with these people, you're just making your life harder. That's like me saying, I'm going to be the best athlete possible, but I'm never going to take any coaching from anyone. I could still maybe get good, but that's just a stupid thing to say. Why would I not take any direction if I want to be the best at something? That becomes arrogance and ego and pride at that point. And so we will improve if we're around people that we want to be around. And so get into better relationships. And some people don't like that there's a transition area of that. So a lot of times you enter into a slight loneliness period for that. It is good to pull the rug under some of that. So getting rid of certain friends, getting rid of certain relationships, people often want a replacement, but sometimes there's no room for the replacement. You have to eliminate in your life before you add at times to prevent stress buildup. So if you can't find people, if you want to have good finances, I'll go back to that, and you're looking for advice and everyone around you is just this live in the moment, blow your money here, blow your money there. No, we don't say we have a payment for this. They're not going to help you very much with your finances. And so you might realize, I don't have anyone to take advice from. Okay, so start by not asking them any money questions anymore. And just start by looking for it. And that YouTube does that great. You can find people online. That's one step removed from good advice because you don't know the person, but it's still helpful. I think everyone can say that they've gotten good advice or been encouraged in some way through a YouTube video. And we can say the opposite of that as well, but I think a lot of people can say, yes, I've had that experience. And so you do miss out on the relational piece because they won't give you information tailored to you. It's tailored to whoever they were talking to in their video or just a general audience. Like this video, for instance. If you're watching it, I don't know exactly who you are, more than likely. So you have to take this and then apply it. And you're going to get a better conversation if you were with me face to face. Now, I do focus on these videos trying to make them as focused as possible. And a lot of what I do, I try to generalize and hone in. So these are still conversations I would have face to face with someone. But my follow-up would be, what do you want in your life? And if you say, I want better relationships, who do you know that has good relationships? And be like, well, my dad, people really like him and he's always with friends and spending time with people. It's like, great. Maybe spend more time with your dad if you can, or get some advice on how he manages his relationships. Hey, and you acknowledge it. Hey, I love what I see with how you handle your relationships and your friendships that you have. What do you do to make that last? And that's such an encouraging thing. People like to hear that. And I've done that on multiple occasions. I've done it with people about finances, about their marriage, about just how they manage their family, certain hobbies and tasks. I've done that multiple times, and people are always encouraged and feel happy because you're saying, hey, you're doing this thing well. People like to hear that. And I think you're doing it so well that I want to learn from you. There's, in my opinion, very few things that are more encouraging than that. Like, that is such an honor to have someone say that to you. And present it that way and tell the person, I want to learn from you. I want to know what you're doing and I want to grow from what you're doing. So I'm not an open book. I'm a sponge. Yes. I want to absorb. So just focus on who you want to be as best you can and take advice from people whose lives you want to replicate. I don't want to be a copycat of people. I want to live a life that has better finances, that is healthier, that I can play guitar better at, that has a good marriage, that is happy. And you go to people who do that. Don't go to sad people to learn how to be happy. And don't go to unhealthy people to learn how to be healthy. Don't take fitness advice from someone who's not fit. And yes, this is a generalization. You're going to get good advice from time to time from other people, but why take the risk? I'm talking like 95% of the time, they're not going to give you the advice that you need. So just focus on the people who are going to give you good advice. Go to someone who has a happy marriage to ask about marriage. Don't go to someone who's been divorced 3 times to ask about how to have a good relationship. Can they give you good information? Yes. But if you don't know why they've been divorced 3 times and you don't have the context, they might just be that same person and they're just going to give you bad advice because it didn't work for them 3 times. So you can hear how this could offend some people because I'm saying don't go to people who've made mistakes. And that's not really what I'm trying to say. Because every single person I've given examples of, so a good marriage, good finances, good health, all those people will make mistakes in that category. I've made mistakes in categories that anyone can ask me for advice for. The difference is I'm persistent in wanting to make those things better. And you could say, well, that person that's been divorced 3 times wanted a good marriage every time. I believe that, and it might have gotten better every time. And the track record still shows, and we're going to assume that they're not married now, that they don't know how to hold down a good marriage. And that one's, I can see some pushback of that being a little bit harder, because like, well, maybe it was the husband's fault every time or the wife's fault every time, and it's not their fault that they got divorced. And then I'll get to, well, how are they choosing the person that they're going to be with? maybe they actually are really good in marriage, but they are really bad at picking partners. And so they actually gave it their all in the marriage and married a person who wasn't a great person. And that happens too, where people start the process poorly and they handle it well. So you can think about that as someone who goes to the gym every single day. They're very good at it, but they don't actually work out. They just kind of meander. They lift weights that aren't really that heavy, and they have horrible form, and they change their routine every week. They're not going to be that in shape. They're going to be more in shape than probably most people just because they're going to do something. But they're actually not going to have good advice on fitness, even if they go to the gym every single day. The thing that's going to make you feel like they're good at that is you're going to see that they have a healthy physique and that they have a healthy life. Not that they go to the gym all the time. When I'm out and about, when I see friends that I know and they look really fit, that is what cues me in. I'm like, oh, they probably know what they're doing. I've never heard someone that says I go to the gym 7 days a week, or I work out twice a day every day, and I'm like, oh, you know what you're doing. No, it's when I see how in shape they are that I think I know what you're doing. Same with someone who has wealth. It's not about this person saying I work 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, and they can barely pay their bills. I don't view that as someone who knows what they're doing with money and with work. They have a strong work ethic. So I could get advice from them on, hey, how do you push yourself to work so much? That could be helpful. But I wouldn't take advice from them on money, because they clearly don't know how to do that, because they can barely pay their bills. And so that's where these things can get, like, you need to just know what you want the information about. And I think that last example makes sense. Of hard work and making money are not the same thing. They're not the same. Now, it'll take a lot of work to make money. Just because you have a hard work ethic doesn't mean you're going to make money. There's a mindset about that. Same with being a therapist. When I see a therapist and they're like, I have 30 clients a week, which is probably unhealthy. That's really hard to manage. Some people can. That's hard. My first thought isn't like, oh, wow, you must be doing a really great job. For me, knowing the field, my first thought is actually like, I wonder if you're okay, because that's too much for a lot of people. And someone could say, I see 30 clients a week. I have no problem keeping a full practice. And you might think, wow, how do you keep a full practice? But as a therapist, my encouragement would be this question. Do you want a full practice or a profitable practice? Those are two extremely different things. Because if I told someone, hey, you could have one client a week and make enough to pay all your bills, or you could have 20 clients a week and make enough to pay all your bills, which do you want? Someone's like, well, one. That's, 95% less work. So it's not about a full caseload. It's about, I want to make ends meet. So someone else could just say yes to every client possible, and they could go out and they are working hard, they're marketing, but maybe their fee is 150, and this person's like, I can only do 70, and they're like, I'll take you. And this, I can only do 100, I'll take you. I can't afford anything. It's like, can you do $5? Sure, I'll take you. So a full caseload does not mean bills are being paid. It just means you're busy. And that person who has 30 clients could be making, well, let's just say $30,000 a year. And someone who's got 12 clients a week could be making $100,000 a year. So it's really, and this is, I guess, my final encouragement with this, you need to know your question and what you want out of your life when you're asking for advice. I know I'm 3 weeks deep into questions and answers, but being able to ask a question is a severely underrated skill set, because people will answer how they understand the question. And if you don't ask it clearly, they will give you an answer that is not what you were looking for. And some of that is, I need to understand when I'm being asked a question, but if I don't, I need to ask clarifying questions. And when I ask someone a question, it's okay. I do this a lot. I add caveats of like, I'm not saying this, I'm not saying that. People are like, why do you put those disclaimers in? Like, because people misunderstand a lot. And part of that's on me to develop the questions better. But I can also help avoid that if I say, but I don't mean this. So I really want to know how to save for retirement. And I already know how to make money. I don't need that route. I need to understand this. And I will give context. Like, okay, I understand a Roth IRA is helpful. And I understand that there's a couple different types of funds. And I've heard information about diversifying this way or doing 25% here. Like, I'm giving context that this person knows what I know, or they know what I know in terms of like, they know they don't have to teach that. Or if they hear me misspeak, they can correct me, be like, well, hang on, I would say it this way. And that's me giving a lot of context to my question, as opposed to just coming like, hey, I want to have money for retirement. And then they might want to know, how much do you need for retirement? All this stuff. And this is, you can tell I like this stuff. Questions are a huge part of what bring me joy in life. So focus in on what you want. If you want to be exercising more, and this is what I talk about with anyone I'm chatting with, who are like, oh, I need to get back into the gym. I need to work out more. I have gotten in the habit now of just being like, well, what do you actually want from your health? Same with someone who's like, I need to go to therapy. What for? It's like, my emotions aren't great. What do you mean? Because there are lots of different therapists, and a lot of them won't be helpful. And a lot of them won't be helpful to you if you don't know what you need. And same with fitness. If someone's like, I really want to get fit, I want to be really muscular, and all they're doing is just running and eating less food, they're not going to get muscular. And they need to change their workout. They need to lift weights. They need to eat a lot of protein, and they need to do probably less cardio than they think, but still cardio. I'm not an expert on that one. But they need a focused thing. This is why if you ever get a mentor or teacher or coach or instructor, that's really insightful, because they'll start to, usually if they're good, they'll start to refine what your goal actually is and what you're wanting from the experience. And a fitness coach is a great example. Music coaches and sports coaches, it's kind of a built-in assumption that you want to do the sport well, you want to do the instrument well. There's maybe some differences there, like, if I'm going in to learn a violin or something, like, are you wanting to do like concert orchestras? Are you wanting to do a quartet? Are you wanting to be able to do solo work? That might adjust what they're doing, but at the end of the day, I need a skill for all of those things. I need to be able to play the violin well. It's a little bit different, yes, if I'm playing with people or alone, but there's all a skill set for that instrument. Same with the sport. The main thing there is, like, if you're playing soccer, it's important for the coach to know if you're a goalie, if you're a forward or a midfielder or a defender, what your experience is with the sport, what formation that you've used on the field, stuff like that. But they need to know, like, okay, you're a left-footed defender. That's really helpful, left foot dominant defender. So I don't want to put you as a right forward or in goal. So focus in on what you're asking and what you want, and you're going to get a better answer. And make sure when you focus that in, you're asking the right person. And that becomes easier when you know what you're asking. If I know I want to learn more about soccer, and let's pretend I'm a goalie, and I go and ask a forward or a midfielder, they'll have a lot of good information, but they won't have as much to help me as a goalie would. A goalkeeper is going to give you more information on goalkeeping. So first know what you want to develop and where you want to grow. And then look at people in your life who are doing that thing well, and go ask them. If you can't find them, start changing your life to go make those relationships, and quit making excuses for it. Make the adjustment and go find the people. And when you don't have them yet, and if you're trying, you will find them. If you're actually trying, you will find them 99 times out of 100. When you're not with them yet, use online resources and books, videos, and learn from people in a bit of a vicarious way where they're teaching online. So take that as encouragement. Take it as encouragement. Take advice from people who you want to emulate their lives. So hope that's helpful to some people. Hope you have a good Monday, and I'll look forward to chatting to y'all next week. See ya.